Boy, oh boy, do we have a lot to dive into for today. Anyways, welcome back, true believers and all you merry Marvelites, to another very interesting Marvel's Avengers related video, of course pertaining to our absolutely favorite superhero game of 2020, with little to no issues surrounding it whatsoever, and nothing but great news coming from it ever since launch. Obviously, I'm joking, but still, there is a lot to dive into for today's topic as to where exactly the overall future of the game could go, or possible lack thereof, considering the current status update that we do have for it is not necessarily a great one. And I do apologize in advance if I do sound a little bit less energetic than usual. I do feel a bit under the weather today, and it is extremely cold outside, and topping all that off with the bad news that we currently have for today doesn't really do a whole lot of a good job to raise my spirits in any way, shape, or form. But we will at least talk about it because I do love superheroes and superhero video games, mainly on this channel, and seeing exactly where they can go down the line in the future, whether that be good or bad, is what I value the most to see as to what these developers have in store for where the progress can take these projects even further. Is that the creative director of Marvel's Avengers, or should I say previous creative director of Sean Eskai, has previously gone on Twitter saying that he has officially left the project of Marvel's Avengers and has returned to his previous studio of none other than Naughty Dog. Of course, the developers of Uncharted, The Last of Us, and so on. Now, you may be someone who might think, Evan, you're looking too much into this. Everything is absolutely fine. Game developers switch their positions within the gaming industry all the time. In fact, they even switch from company to company depending on what particular project that they are working on. And under normal circumstances, I would agree with you, but the fact that this is A, massive AAA property of The Avengers, and B, an ongoing online live service looter shooter game with continuous content that is being inputted within the project for years to come, seeing the main head leading the project flat out leave the entire studio is a bit worrisome. Just a bit, to say the least. And in fact should actually be more cause for concern rather than just being all safe and not really worrying about it too much because of what this might mean for the future of the project. Mainly considering what happened to another massive live service game with that of Anthem, and mainly with the project of Anthem Next. So to put everything into a better perspective, I do want to read directly from a recent Gamespot article which does do a great job of summarizing exactly what has happened with Sean Eskai and his position over at Crystal Dynamics, being the main creative director and lead writer for Marvel's Avengers, and seeing where exactly he is at now with that of Naughty Dog. So as this Gamespot article states, Sean Eskai, writer and creative director of Crystal Dynamics' Marvel's Avengers, has announced he has left the studio and returned to work for former employer Naughty Dog. Now, prior to his departure from the quote-unquote kennel back in 2018, Sean Eskai worked as a cinematic animator for The Last of Us Part 1 and Uncharted 4, as well as game director and writer for Uncharted: The Lost Legacy. While he has yet to announce what project he'll be working on next, from the looks of his Twitter bio, Eskai is fully back to writing and directing at Naughty Dog. And to read off of Sean's post directly with a fresh new Naughty Dog mug and postcard, he did state he's happy to be back with the dogs. Now, the next part of this article is extremely important, and I highly recommend that you fully pay attention as to what it has to say, because the news of Eskai's departure from Crystal Dynamics comes less than a year after Marvel's Avengers release and subsequent lackluster sales. Despite praise towards the game's single-player campaign and protagonist Kamala Khan, which again, Sean Eskai was a major part of considering he was the main writer for the game's campaign, the game without a doubt suffered from a plethora of technical difficulties that rendered the game unplayable at times, according to GameSpot's review. However, the question on everyone's minds was asked by fellow Twitter user Superior Spidey, where he did ask Sean what about Marvel's Avengers. And with the most blatant statement that you can possibly imagine, Sean went on to reply by saying Marvel's Avengers is in good hands. So basically, to summarize what's going on with Marvel's Avengers, it's pretty much a faceless organization right now in terms of leadership from people over at Crystal Dynamics. However, we still currently don't know who exactly is going to replace Sean's position as creative director. However, if I personally had to guess, considering that I did have the privilege of interviewing him all the way back at E3 2019, I do think the other creative director of Noah Hughes is going to come in and step up and take the full-time position of full-on creative director of the project of Marvel's Avengers, taking over Sean's place and hopefully leading Marvel's Avengers into a bigger and brighter future. Still, that is only a massive hypothetical coming from me, considering that the current status of the game has done little to almost nothing to fully reassure me and also a massive plethora of fans to guarantee a great and promising overall future for the game as a whole, in terms of adding more content, financial revenue coming in for Square Enix, and just making a bigger and better game overall. Now, some people may think that this was a decision carried out by Sean himself of choosing to leave Crystal Dynamics, going back to Naughty Dog Studios, his previous home away from home, of course, since he was the main creative director and writer of Uncharted: The Lost Legacy, which is, in my opinion, a really good game. I do think there is a lot more to this than meets the eye, and I do want to highlight a very important post from fellow Marvel's Avengers leaker on Twitter, as you may know, of Miller, who did re-quote a fellow post from writer/director of Days Gone, John Garvin, saying that if you're the creative director on a franchise and your game is coming out to a Metacritic score of 70, you're not going to be the creative director on that franchise for very long. And I do think he is absolutely correct. If you guys are unaware, directly on Metacritic's website for this particular example, the overall score for Marvel's Avengers is currently standing at 67 out of 100, and the user score is at 4.9 out of 10. For a AAA massive Marvel video game, specifically with the main property and IP as popular as The Avengers, that should not be the score it has currently gained. But again, it's because the current format of the game, with its live service nature, lack of content, not really a whole lot of innovation within the genre of looter shooter, and just lack of transparency of communication between the developers and fans, has garnered little to no trust between the consumers and the developers at large, and that is exactly why the project is in the current state that it is right now. And seeing that Sean is coming out and saying that Marvel's Avengers is going to be in good hands, even though he was the main creative director of said project, doesn't necessarily reassure me as to what the future of the game currently holds, considering how we saw the exact same situation play out almost one-to-one to that of Anthem. Now granted, even though Marvel's Avengers and Anthem were fully developed and published by completely different studios, the same exact situation seems to be occurring for Marvel's Avengers as to what happened with Anthem. This not only directly refers to the same type of genre that Anthem was, with it being a live service looter shooter, but the same exact situation did occur for Anthem's creative director flat out leaving BioWare Studios. And I do want to give you the full context of this situation, so I am going to read off of a previous article from GamesIndustry.biz that was posted back in late March of this year, where it did go on to report the news by stating BioWare's Chief of Staff and Director of Anthem, Jonathan Warner, has announced his departure from the studio. Sharing the news on Twitter on Friday, which was his last day at the studio, he just said he's moving on to do new things without sharing more details as to what that fully entails. BioWare has been home to my grateful heart for nearly 10 years, and I want to wish them all the best. Dragon Age, Mass Effect, and Star Wars The Old Republic, as well as Anthem, are in good hands, and I can't wait to play from this side of the screen. Warner joined BioWare in 2012 as senior producer, mainly focused on the Mass Effect franchise. He became game director in 2015, taking the lead on the development of Anthem, and was promoted to Chief of Staff in May of 2019. However, as we all saw what happened with Anthem, it was fully shut down earlier this year, following a troubled journey since launch in February of 2019. BioWare's title was reportedly shutting off PlayStation 4s when it released, leading to Sony issuing refunds for the game. Anthem was labeled as lacking substance when it launched, with many considering it as an unfinished game. Gee, I wonder what game that sounds similar to. Now again, you guys, I'm not by any means trying to fully diss on Marvel's Avengers, or even Sean Eskai as the creative director, or even the massive amount of developers who truly care about the property that they're working on, but just analyzing Marvel's Avengers as a product, you do have to admit that there is a lot of flaws within its current status. It could have launched a lot better, and in some areas it did feel like it was a bit rushed, even though it was delayed from its original release date back in May of 2020 to then September of 2020, The product that we currently have now does not reflect a proper development cycle that should have been inputted for a game of this magnitude, especially relating to characters this beloved by so many people worldwide. And this leads to, again, the comparison between Anthem and Avengers. Even though Avengers is a massive property with comic fans and even gamers alike, the fact of the matter is it is not doing enough justice to the Marvel brand as a whole. There's a lack of players, and the sales that the game has garnered is not doing enough to recuperate the development costs that were spent to fully market and make the game. And with no current update from Marvel or Square Enix as to who is filling in the role of creative director, it currently seems like, as of right now, Marvel's Avengers is a chicken with its head cut off. There's not a lot of whole full-on leadership or direction as to where the game could be going forward. We do know that the first major event from the game's roadmap is set to occur tomorrow on April 22nd until early May of the Tachyon Anomaly event, but again, that is only a limited time event and doesn't do enough to fully revitalize players to go back into playing the game, especially, again, considering its nature of a flat-out online live service looter shooter. And like my thumbnail directly says, guys, I do think, sadly, that this is the beginning of the end for Marvel's Avengers. It already wasn't doing enough to fully justify the full-on $60 price, and because of that, we did see the game move onto PlayStation Now, trying to make it a quote-unquote free-to-play game. But seeing where exactly the game could go in the future with the updates that it does have in store with the roadmap, I do again fully believe that Black Panther and Spider-Man are going to be the make or break factors for Marvel's Avengers, and if it does do a great job of getting more people interested in the game, great, more power to them. I would love to see a massive turnaround for this game. But if Marvel and Square Enix do decide that this isn't working for them, this isn't making a whole profit for the game, then I do think that they will then fully shift focus onto their next Square Enix Marvel Games projects, again the leak of the Guardians of the Galaxy game, and focus more on those titles instead of just burning money as to what Avengers currently is. But with all that said, everyone, that is the video that I have for you today. Let me know all your thoughts in the comment section down below about what is going on with Sean Eskai leaving his position as creative director for Marvel's Avengers. Do you think we could see a similar situation to what we saw with Anthem? Or, if you're on the more positive side, do you think it could be a Battlefront 2 situation where it could do a complete turnaround and just fully blow everyone's minds by the time that they include Black Panther, Spider-Man, and possibly some other heroes to be included down the line? I'd love to hear your thoughts. Thank you all so much for watching. Feel free to leave a like on the video and subscribe to the channel if you did enjoy it. It would mean a lot to me. Stay tuned for more amazing content like this. But until next time, everyone, stay merry, Marvelites, and peace out.